So I decided to turn on my camera just as I'm about to leave Taiwan. And I looked back at my channel, and the last few videos I've made here have been about textiles. And as it happens to be, my thoughts today are related to textiles. It might not seem obvious at first, but when I saw that, I walked over and picked up a couple of the um, little needle books I've made while I've been here. More backstory later. But my favorite are these little felt cats that I found. These are Japan inspired but Taiwan purchased fabrics, cottons. And so there's that. And this one I actually really love. Um, Kind of inspired by something I saw in the background of an Instagram reel that I was like, wow, I want to try to make that. And that's my attempt. Oh, interesting. I have this idea that I haven't acted on this piece of fabric that hasn't been attached. So I was kind of amused by the Japaneseness of some of these prints. And I'm actually in love with the cat prints that they have on fabric here. In both Japan and Taiwan, people are pretty expressive about their love of cats in fabric patterns. Okay, so that's the little dose of textiles, but really why I wanted to record this was the observation that I've been here for 7 weeks now. I'm about to leave 4 or 5 days from now, and I haven't made a video log. I've made a lot of taken a lot of pictures and made a lot of Instagram reels, but I haven't spoken. I've done a lot of writing while I've been here. And but I wanted to share about this particular phenomenon that happens when I'm solo traveling. So I tend to solo travel in one main way at this point in my life. I like to find a place. If it's in the US, I go to a rural or small town place. And if it's abroad, I go to a bigger city. More on that later, maybe. I get an Airbnb. I find an Airbnb that's in a neighborhood that feels like it's going to be very local to me. I don't like the parts of places that are catered to tourists and visitors and that are mostly focused on a certain kind of shopping and a certain kind of food that are to me are caricatures of a place and not what actual people who live there would enjoy doing. And I live in a destination in the US where the vast majority of our restaurants and shops are catered to that type of person that's coming down for the weekend or once in a lifetime kind of walking through that town. And so it just creates a certain quality of objects that at this point in my life is of little to no interest. So what's happened here in Taiwan is I've picked 4 different Airbnbs. I've stayed in them from 1 to 2 weeks, and then this one in particular I've stayed in for 5 weeks. So if you have done travel using one suitcase and 1 backpack, or even just 1 backpack, which I have not done yet internationally, this trip I did with a carry-on, but large carry-on sized luggage and a backpack, both of which were monstrously heavy because I had packed for Japan for 10 days, which had very cold weather this year at the end of March. And so I had very heavy clothing and boots and stuff and hats and gloves. And then I came to Taiwan for the transition to summer. And even though I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt today, because it's a chilly 78 degrees down from 89, 94 type of temperatures in the previous days, it's been very, very hot. And so the clothing requirements have been different. And I've actually had to acquire some clothes Um, and then recently I bought a second carry-on size luggage to go home with, just so I'm not, um, well, it just, I definitely would not have been able to fit everything in that one suitcase because I had already expanded it with my last move. I had finally unzipped it and allowed myself to go to the expanded mode. But for the first 5 weeks, I didn't allow myself to expand that zipper pouch, um, because I was like, I have to haul this across cities, on the sidewalks and down escalators and things. So if you have traveled like that, you know that it's a very different feeling to unpack for 1 week versus unpacking for 5 weeks. And so the last 5 weeks, I've definitely spread out and felt more freedom to buy things, like little things mostly. But then as the trip is winding down and I'm feeling that sort of, for this case, for Taiwan, like an anticipatory grief that I may never, who knows when I can come back. I shouldn't say never. Who knows when I can come back? This is what I have in my head. I don't know. It might be a vestigial, like intergenerational, um, immigrant trauma type of thing, but I just feel like I don't know when I can come back for a variety of reasons, including the geopolitical situation that's very uncertain right now and is being hyped up by the media as well. But is also real in its own way. So I feel like the things that I'm feeling, so what I've observed and wanted to turn on the camera and talk about was this feeling that arises in me, that sort of that anticipatory grief, like I don't, it's like a scarcity fear, like I don't know if I'm going to be able to come back, or I don't know if this is the last time I'll see this place. So a little bit of scarcity. And then the feeling, okay, what do I want to do? Well, what can I do? And I noticed that one of my go-to responses is to go shopping for something. And I'm not talking about souvenirs because I don't want to take home another plastic keychain, or figurine. But for this trip, I wanted to go back because when I went to the fabric market called Yongla Market, it was probably 4 weeks ago that I went. I only got the smallest square scraps that they had, and they were rolled up into little scrolls, and I bought like a little bag of them, kept them rolled up for a week until I moved into this Airbnb where I could finally unroll them and like look at them and make cuts and make this patchwork piece, which is on the cover, and also on this inner piece that I made from the strips. I made like a checkerboard pattern, which took longer than you can see. Those of you who actually stitch by hand know that that was a lot of work. um, but I got small amounts of things because I knew I couldn't carry them around. And then when I started working with them, I really, really enjoyed these fabrics. And I said, before I leave, I'm going to go back and get some more so that I can have a little bit larger quantities of some of the things that I want to make larger items with, like maybe a tote bag or a larger zipper pouch. So that was an intention I had, but then today I felt like, oh, this would be a good window of time to do that. And then I had all these other feelings like, wait, stop, pause, breathe, check in. Is that really what I want to do? Or is there another need that I have? And when I sat with it, I just, I was able to stop that automatic reflex of, oh, good, there's something to do. Here, there's a whole sequence of tasks involved in going shopping. So it's like, get ready to go, get yourself together, walk out, then you sort of go on autopilot. You walk in the street and then everything starts coming in, the sensory stimulation of walking on the street, seeing things, getting on the MRT. And then, it's just constant stimulation in a city. And I especially noticed that in Taipei, where it's like everywhere I look is like an invitation to want something. Do you want this food? Do you want these shiny items? Do you want to play this gambling machine? I mean, not that have done that, but everything is sort of like a shiny object. And so I've become like pretty fascinated with what that has been doing to me, living in an environment filled with shiny objects. I have done zero internet shopping while I'm here because I can't have anything shipped to me here. So I think that gap, that void has been filled by randomly wanting to like think of something to go out in the street to go get. So I will say, oh, I'm going to go down to the market to get some fruit or to get this item, or I need this from the store. But on the way there, there's a whole host of like other stimuli that just hit me right in the dopamine receptors. And gradually over the weeks, I've gotten better at like noticing that and really not just succumbing to every urge, because there's always a good rationale when you're traveling, especially to a place that has the meaning that Taiwan does for me. There's always a rationale for like trying new things, like eating things that are not necessary, but they're about experiencing some memory or reference to some other part of life. And that can lead to overeating, not feeling good, just not really serving the body, but more indulging in mental ideas. So with the fabric, it's like, could I live without this fabric? Yes. Could I live without the 4 books that weigh 5 kilos that I bought the other day? Yes, but also if, like I trust that I ended up in that bookstore for a reason, and these books are only published in Taiwan in English, and I can't get them online. And like, I want to read them and I want to have them. And I have like, there's questions that I've had that are in those books that, okay, I think they found me and I need to bring them home. And with this fabric, um, these fabrics do have a different vibrational quality to me than the prints from a European design or aesthetic. Like European based quilting scraps are different from these Japanese and Taiwan based print designs. And what I'm drawn to in that world of Japanese and Taiwanese fabrics is specific also. And so I think there's something calling to me there. So maybe it's worth a trip to the market today to see what calls to me today. Maybe there's nothing that I want to bring home, but I had to sit with that and say, like, do I really want the fabric, or is there something else that I'm needing right now? And part of it was like this expression that I'm doing right now. So I think I will be more grounded in like being able to ask the right question when I get to the market, and not just sort of grab at things hoping to satisfy whatever this unidentified feeling is in my body. Um, and as I sit with this, it's like it's very meaningful to buy things that are actually raw materials for my creative practice and creative process. And to make an object like this is part of the contemplative process, just like writing is for me being in a place. So I can't wait to get home to my entire stash of embroidery floss colors. I brought a very small selection here, not knowing how much stitching I was going to get to. And I'm glad I brought what I did, because I've almost worked through a lot of, most of it is almost gone. So I have so many more colors of threads at home. So that's another thing to be excited about when I choose some more fabrics maybe today. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about the phenomenon of what it's like to unpack, to live in a place for a week versus 5 weeks, and then these all these different feelings that need to be sorted through that come up as I'm leaving a place that I've stayed in for some amount of time. And the last time I did a trip this long abroad was in 2015 when I was in Laos for the Thai massage circus 4 month residential plus 3 additional weeks in Chiang Mai, Thailand, to study Thai massage that entire time. And I am reminded that I need to do this regularly. I mean, I actually reconnected with Deepak Chopra's YouTube channel during this trip. And I had just been like kind of judging him internally, like going like, he took meditation and he just made become a millionaire based on that. And he turned it into this capitalistic thing. But I tuned back into him somehow because he popped up in my channel, and I'm watching his little videos he's making from his hotel room in India on his own retreat. It's like there is a purity that I feel in him when he's like that, when he's doing candid videos. I know he's aware that he's promoting himself, but he's also like himself, and he's not like, on a stage with like the little headset doing one of those keynotes, which is a total persona. So there is a real authentic practice underneath the persona that I was kind of encouraged to see. And I think I'm coming into my own new relationship with promotion in general. If you've looked at this channel in the past, you've seen that I have this very long-standing, conflicted, on again, off again relationship with making these videos and what I want to put in them. And it's related to my experience in my relationship to performance in general, and being a performer and being somebody that talks in front of an audience, and how I want to reclaim that in my own way, because there's so many old ingrained patterns for me in performance. That's my lifelong, probably longest standing identity, is a performer. And so I want to take what the strengths of that identity and kind of strip away the parts that kind of consume the other parts of me that are younger in terms of my own nurturing of these parts, like the creative part, the part that likes to hand stitch, and the part that is a patchwork always of mismatched parts put together in new ways for surprising combinations. And coming back to the idea why I talked about Deepak Chopra and the international travel and thinking about Laos, is that this whole experience of like being abroad, like on the other side of the world in the Eastern Hemisphere, where there's just so many different ways of being that we, like, as people that are completely entrenched in the Western, specifically United States of America perspective. I mean, it's food for the soul to get out of that every once in a while, more and more so, because that the deeper we get entrenched in sort of ourselves and our own echo chambers and our own polarizations and just sort of like silly conversations that we're in right now, they're important. They're very, very significant for the social fabric of our society, but they're also just so rooted in like non-awareness of a larger world possibility going on. It's like, I remember the days that I spent in meditation and in the practice of Thai massage for those 8 weeks, and how difficult they were, as well as life-changing, and how they really changed me forever. And when I came back to the US and didn't really know what to do with that, frankly, in our mainstream society, because it was that level of heart and self-intimacy that is developed by meditating and doing embodied loving kindness, like through Thai massage, it's like being from another planet to show up in the United States like that. And I I struggled and worked at trying to do that. And it was a very brand new way for me too. And I couldn't find the way to be like part of our society and blending in and being in communities in the physical reality of a particular place in the United States, and all of these ideas I had just dipped into. And, to see that Deepak Chopra still takes himself on retreats to India and, receives Ayurvedic medicine treatments and does whatever he does, it's like it reminds me that this is a part of my practice to dip into other parts of the world that have always inspired me and are also in my DNA as being part, like the substance of my body originated on this side of the world as well. And there's something about, everything in the consciousness of the East that is very rooted in me and that I want to keep cultivating. And we know that that's through practice. And that practice for me is about immersing my body in something. And so that's how I've traveled. Always, but especially when I'm in Asia, I like to just immerse in walking a lot. This trip did not include a lot of nature. I was so lucky in Laos to have the experience of being led by locals and just doing a lot of very, very earth body activities like swimming in um, pools constructed from like a natural waterfall that was like dug out at the bottom for humans to kind of go into, and like literally just had a mud bottom. Nothing, something I'd never done before. And living in community and also interacting in a Southeast Asian city like Luang Prabang or Chiang Mai. These are mid-sized to smaller sized cities in countries that are not fully industrialized. And there's a beauty of the way that those ancient spiritualities form a bedrock of daily life in these cities still, that it's just in the air. Not so much in Taiwan. You'll see a certain form of their spiritual practice that's more about asking for good luck and praying and hoping that you have the God's approval for things, which is a slightly different way of applying spiritual concepts, to life. It's more about like, what are you going to get in return for donating money, versus the practice in Southeast Asia of everyone giving food to the monks every day and seeing monks around all the time, and just what that is, what that means. I mean, I don't know what it means to the local people, but I know as someone in my body walking on the streets and seeing that, it's like this different type of awareness of, oh, okay, that's there, it makes an impact. So I'm going to get ready to go now to the Yongla market to see what fabrics I might want to take home with me, if any. But I'm going to go ask that question on my feet by exploring and not through talking anymore. So thanks for listening. And hopefully this will be the first of more video reflections, combining all of my different media as I get home and beyond. Thanks.